This is an RNZ podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Morris. In the middle of the New Zealand winter, the one bright spot for movie lovers is the annual International Film Festival, Whana Marama. For 2 or 3 glorious weeks, depending where you are, you can bask in the light of the best movies from around the world, as well as the latest hopefuls from New Zealand. The film festival has been through the wars lately. Personnel changes, far more competition from rival festivals, not to mention the relentless assault by Netflix and the other streamers. This year, festival director Paolo Bersolin gives on the one hand. There are over 100 titles on offer, including many international award winners, and takes away on the other. The festival is playing in far fewer venues than it used to back in its heyday, the 4 main centres and just 6 smaller ones: Tauranga, Hamilton, Napier, New Plymouth, Masterton and Nelson. Before we looked at some of the festival highlights, I first asked Paolo Bersolin how film festivals around the world are coping in these challenging times.
I feel that the big festivals, but also some of the main national events are doing well. I feel 2025 so far has been a very good year in terms of turnout of audiences. People seem to be willing to come back to the theaters. They want to share the experience of cinema. And maybe there is a new generation of audiences who want to discover the experience of watching films on the big screen. I've been seeing in various European cities back in the last few months how when you create a nice event, people really want to be there. I hope that this edition, the 2025 edition of the festival, is also going to be one that marks this return of audiences to cinemas.
This is your second year, director of the festival, Paolo. I mean, do you foresee any great changes this year from last year? I mean, it's a lot bigger. There are a lot more films this time, I notice.
Yeah, well, this is definitely a big change because last year we were facing a lot of constraints, but we are working on that. And I think the best way to achieve that is bringing to the audiences a strong program. We are really offering a very varied menu. Last year, maybe we were missing on comedies, or we were missing on French films. And this year, we took that into account because we got feedback. And I feel we have more or less everything that an audience can crave for.
One thing I do notice is that there are only a few places that you're playing. You're playing the 4 main centres. You're playing a limited number of other cities and towns in New Zealand, aren't you?
I can say that compared to last year, again, listening to the feedback we had, we have tried our best to bring even more films to the other centres. This time around, the Southern Island cities, Christchurch and Dunedin, have more than 80 films compared to last year when Dunedin only had, let's say, 30 films, if I'm not wrong. So we have maximized the offer that we could bring to those cities. Even in terms of the smaller centres, we are offering a much more diverse option of programming.
Well, all the more reason in that case to have a good idea of what films are coming up. And I noticed that this year, one of the traditional strengths of the festival is the fact that you can pick highlights from all these other international festivals. And you've done particularly well with Cannes this year, haven't you?
Well, yes, but I have to say that it was also because Cannes was very good. I mean, at least in my opinion and the opinion of colleagues that I met during the festival, it felt like this was a very good harvest.
Un simple accident de Jafar Panahi.
A moment of joy and vindication for Iranian director Jafar Panahi. As his political revenge thriller, It Was Just an Accident, picked up the Cannes Film Festival's top prize, the Palme d'Or.
It's especially nice that we are bookending the festival with the 2 main winners. We have the Jafar Panahi film, It Was Just an Accident, and then Sentimental Value as the closing film.
Right.
I feel these 2 films are very, very different, and they're representing 2 angles that you can look at the festival. On the one hand, Panahi's film is a political film about Iran, but it's a film that veers into an assessment of what it means to be human. And on the other hand, with Sentimental Value, Joachim Trier's film that won the Grand Jury Prize in Cannes, we literally explore the power of cinema as a healing tool. We have a fractured family. The estranged father is a film director. There's a daughter who is a reluctant actress, and they might be working together on a script. And family drama unfolds, and it unfolds thanks to cinema within cinema. And that provides a very powerful healing tool. And I feel like this is a recurring thread in many films, the fact that we can find some form of cure for our traumas or the traumas of today's life in films.
The most interesting thing about both of those films, the first one was the Palme d'Or. The winner was an Iranian film, and it's astonishing how smart and sophisticated they are in a country that's not known for being smart and sophisticated. Meanwhile, the Norwegian film was directed by the man who directed The Worst Person in the World,
Yes.
which was a huge hit here, both at the festival and later. I was also fascinated to see that a friend of mine, a guy called Kleber Mendonça Filho, the Brazilian filmmaker, has picked up not just Best Director, but also Best Actor for a film of his called The Secret Agent.
It's a fantastic film as well. I would really recommend to see it because it's another work that shows the power of cinema in dealing, in this specific case, with history, the traumatic past of the dictatorship in Brazil, but at the same time offering a very personal story that is centered on characters. I felt that Brazilian cinema has been doing really well during the last 12 months or so. You know, they won their first ever Oscar for the international film.
Of course, that's right.
With Walter Salles' I'm Still Here. And we thought that it was good to offer a specific focus on Brazil. You have Secret Agent playing there, but also the runner-up in Berlin, the Grand Jury Prize of Berlin, The Blue Trail, which is a fantastic film about a woman who escapes being locked into a house of retirement out of her will and finds liberty and soul connection with nature and people by traveling through the Amazon.
Looking at some of the other big tickets, I find, coincidentally or not, you mentioned the runner-up in Berlin, but the first prize was another Norwegian film.
Yes, Norway. I mean, last year we had Norway in focus, actually.
Right.
So that shows that this country keeps showing very strongly at festivals and with audiences worldwide. But I feel like it's nice to discover the director of the Golden Bear winner, Dreams. His name is Dag Johan Haugerud. He's famous in Norway as a writer of novels and short stories, and he ventured into cinema quite at an old age, but he has been exploring very different formats. And a couple of years ago, he was given a grant from the Norwegian Film Institute to make a film, and instead he made 3, Dreams, Sex and Love. Last year we presented Sex, but we are bringing it back to the festival in order to show the full trilogy. Dreams is the film that won the Golden Bear in Berlin, and Love was in Venice last year. And I would say that Sex is more of a comedy, Love is a, let's say, romantic drama, and Dreams is an exploration of first love. I think these films really provide a mosaic of what it means to fall in love today.
One of the other big tickets this year is a New Zealand co-production called Prime Minister.
All eyes have now turned to Jacinda Ardern.
Step up to the plate or watch your party die.
We will remain relentlessly positive. That is who we are as New Zealanders.
No one thought it was plausible that we could win.
In the end, we shall.
This may possibly be more controversial here than it was when it played at Sundance.
Well, we had a lot of feedback when we announced the film as our centerpiece. I would say that there were a lot of enthusiastic people and some others who were, of course, a little bit incensed about the film's presence at the festival. I feel that it's important to show these kind of works because people should make their own mind by watching the films.
Absolutely. One other interesting thing this year, I thought, was the number of partnerships, of well-known partnerships. We mentioned Joachim Trier and Renata Reinsve, who was the director and star of the Norwegian film Sentimental Value. Also, a favourite of mine, Christian Petzold, and his usual star, Paolo is in a movie called Mirror Number 3. One return I'm really pleased to see is New Zealand husband and wife, director Curtis Vowell and writer-star Sophie Henderson. I love their stuff, and they've got a new film coming out called Workmates, haven't they?
I'm very glad to screen this film at the festival as a world premiere. We all love the film. It's a truly endearing romantic comedy that doesn't follow the usual script of the romantic comedy. And it's also a magnificent celebration of the commitment of people who work in arts, in this case in theater, but it could be cinema, performance, or anything else. It's a marvelous film that I feel really represent the best of creativity in New Zealand film.
Well, actually, looking at the New Zealand films this year, creativity seems to be a little theme in some respect. Some of our top artists and musicians get documentaries or films about them.
Yeah, I feel like it's very nice that this year New Zealand cinema is celebrating some of the great talents in the arts and specifically in music with Anchor Me about Don McGlashan and Life in One Chord about Shane Carter. And it's also specifically nice that the festival itself is celebrating these musicians with their presence at the screenings and with a very specific event that is happening with the Life in One Chord film, because the film will have its world premiere in Dunedin.
Oh, brilliant. There's also the artist Dame Robin White, who's filmed by another great dame. This is Gayleen Preston. And there's also a film about the legendary John Clarke, directed by his daughter Lauren.
Yeah, well, these are other fantastic portrayals that we feel were really worth sharing with the audiences. On the one hand, Gayleen Preston's Grace is a fantastic film about creation, but also about coming to terms with what it means to reflect on the world into your own art. And on the other hand, Lauren Clarke's film celebrating her own father is a film that tells us about the career of a comedian, but at the same time portrays a family man, a father with great affection and devotion.
Looking at some of the international films, I noticed that international politics features a lot. I mean, understandably, I suppose now, particularly in the Middle East.
Well, it's inevitable. I mean, films, cinema in general reflects on what's around in the world. It was important for us as selectors to bring what cinema is telling us about the world. In that sense, it's quite important to have a film like Happy Holidays, which is reflecting everyday life of Palestinians within Israel. So it's a slightly different perspective.
In addition to that, families dealing with unique situations in Chechnya, in India, Ukraine, of course, Romania, Iraq. That looked a rather interesting one.
It's The President's Cake, the first feature film that won the Camera d'Or, the prestigious award that in Cannes is awarded to the best first feature film. And it's a really surprising portrayal of Iraq under the regime of Saddam Hussein through the prism of a child's experience. Yes, it's a film about politics, but it's also how life can be dealt with from the point of view of children who are obviously always full of hope in a brighter future.
I do think that that's one of the exciting things about this film festival, but film festivals in general, is that they're not blatant, this is how it is. It's always a little to one side. It's a little elliptic. You've got families in a situation. You've got people reacting in ways that you're not expecting.
Well, that's because by compiling a program with several dozens of films, every corner you look at, you will find something different. That's why it's eclectic. And also the tones are going to be very different. We will have lighter films. There are comedies, but there are also indeed serious films. I would like to underline once again that what I like about the films that we have is that there is a lot of hope.
في ناس مفرحة هون.
واو بهبل.
كاس ليلى وهاني ارفعوا. تشيرز. الله العقبة للمعوزين.
قريبا إن شاء الله.
جاك وفيف.
We were talking a little bit about politics, but there's also sexual politics. There's all sorts of different politics. And there were a couple of films that leapt out at me. One was a film called Plainclothes. This is an American film about police entrapping gay men.
Well, this is a personal favorite. I have to say that I hadn't heard much about the film when I saw it, and I was really, really surprised because this is something that tells you a lot about the internal conflict of a young man who has not understood who he really is. So I definitely would invite audiences to discover this film because it's a very surprising work.
There's also a Chinese film called Mistress Dispeller, which is a unique way of dealing with your husband's mistress in a rather tactful way.
I would say that this is really an incredible film because it's about women who hire mistress dispellers. It's a profession in China, like women who convince men not to have a mistress. And the most incredible part is that the film is a documentary.
One thing I did notice was a couple of films about the rise of the right in the 20th century. There's a documentary about Leni Riefenstahl, who was Hitler's filmmaker, basically. She was described as the first artist to be cancelled.
What is really troubling about Leni Riefenstahl, and this film really sheds a light on that, is that she made masterpieces, but whose art was serving the wrong ideals. That's where the whole troubling nature of her work is coming from.
There's another film that reflects a very current concern now, which is truth. The post-truth world. This is a film pretty much spells it out. It's called George Orwell, 2 + 2 = 5. And he was the first person to really tap into that, wasn't he?
Yes, and it's really impressive to watch this film today because director Raoul Peck is basically using sentences from George Orwell's books and from his memoirs, and it feels like it's about today. I mean, he manages to juxtapose these sentences with images of today's politics, and it feels really scary. And it's a magnificent work that I would like to really recommend to everyone who is interested in politics and what today's life, today's world looks like.
One thing I also noticed was that there's the return in this year's festival of some favourite directors. I look at David Cronenberg. He's got a new movie called The Shroud. It's a very David Cronenberg title. The Belgium's Dardenne brothers. Another film by the great Kelly Reichardt. What's that? That's a film called The Mastermind.
Wow, it's difficult to summarize these three films all together, but I guess they are all of them, in a way or another, a testament to the style of their directors. The Shrouds is once again a very dark exploration of our desires. In this case, what happens when someone who is very close to us departs. The Dardenne brothers are again working with a very beautiful balance between documentary-like kind of cinema and fiction in depicting the fate of some young women who have become mothers ahead of time and have to deal with their everyday problems and keeping again hope in a brighter future. And Kelly Reichardt is doing her own heist movie in a very intellectual way, and as Josh O'Connor in a very nice performance there, but it's definitely not an action film.
I'm fascinated in the retro section, and this year it's not the usual polite Hollywood classics. You've got a whole bunch of quite unusual selections, including the top one.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I mean, of course, I guess there has been a lot of attention and we have a lot of requests from audiences about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which many people feel, but this is not a festival film. This is a gore film. But actually, this recently digitized/restored version was screened in Cannes. So it was actually upgraded to the status of festival film by the Director's Fortnight a couple of years ago. And what is interesting is that we are playing it together with Alexander Phillips' latest film, a fantastic documentary called Chain Reactions, which is showing us the impact of this classic of horror on a whole generation of filmmakers who are telling us what that film meant for their careers.
In addition to that, you've got a couple of quite obscure films in there, really, haven't you?
Well, it depends on the perspective. Personally, I'm very excited to show to New Zealand audiences a couple of films like I've Heard the Mermaids Singing, which is a Canadian film from the 1980s, the first film by woman director Patricia Rozema, who already back then in 1987 was reflecting on the power of recording images and talking to a camera about your own experiences, something that feels like very much today.
Absolutely.
And then Bela Tarr's Grandmasterwork, Werkmeister Harmonies, which is a black and white reflection on the end of the world. Of course, it's an apocalyptic kind of film, but it's one that has the most gorgeous images, and I'm really glad that the festival audiences will be able to see it on the big screen.
You've got two Beatle-adjacent films. They are very different. One of them is a documentary about John Lennon and Yoko Ono, One to One, and the other one is a rather less reverent film called Ebony and Ivory.
The documentary about John and Yoko is a very intimate look on their relationship in the final days of John. It's a really beautiful film. I just invite audiences to discover it because it's not just about music, it's really about their relationship, and it's a really beautiful portrayal of a love story. Ebony and Ivory, I would say that it's definitely not what you expect. The midnight crowds will enjoy the film. I'm not sure about the fans of Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder.
Oh, funny, is it?
Yes, it's funny.
I am here because we are both musical legends! Forget musical legend, I'm talking genius!
Actually, at least a couple of other titles out of Cannes. One is the Japanese film Kokuho, which is an epic 3 hours long film about a rivalry in the kabuki theater world. Is very classic in its storytelling, but it has really gorgeous images, and it turned out to be a huge hit against all odds. It has already collected more than 1.5 million viewers in Japanese theaters. The other one is another Cannes title, the Colombian film called A Poet, which is a portrayal of a poet, indeed, as the title suggests, but one who is a total failure. And it's a character that at first you feel like, oh, I don't want to spend time with this man. Bit by bit, you discover that this man has a heart. In his attempt to bring success to a younger woman who has really a talent for poetry, we really get close to him. And after a lot of laughter, we really end up crying.
Comedy and sentiment. There's a lot more of both of those, I think, in this year's festival.
Yes, indeed. I'm really hoping that audiences will come to the theaters this year and will laugh a lot and will cry a lot. So emotions will be on the forefront with the films at the festival.
Paolo Bersolin, the director of the New Zealand International Film Festival. The festival kicks off on July the 31st in Auckland, and then the other 9 centres the following weeks. Around 120 films, and as far as I can tell, not a single sequel among them. I'm about to take a couple of weeks off, and I'll leave you in the safe hands of Dan Slevin. I'm Simon Morris, and I hope you'll join Dan at the movies, same time next week.